Hello everyone, and welcome to this session of the Emerging Technologies track. In this session, we will provide an introduction to the world of NFTs, some of its use cases, promises, and challenges. We will be joined by Lucas, VP of Engineering at Enjin, a leading blockchain and NFT platform helping companies such as game developers to leverage blockchain technologies. By the way, my name is Antoine. I'm a startup account manager at AWS based out of Singapore. NFTs have been taking the world by storm for the past 2 years. Everybody's heard of these cartoonish, goofy pictures selling for thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions. There has been much debate about the sums involved with NFTs, their real utility, or their environmental impact. Today, we will attempt to explain why they are driving a lot of enthusiasm and what are the use cases that they can enable today as well as in the future. I will first provide a high-level overview of what blockchains are and how NFTs can relate to these. We will be then joined by Lucas from the Singapore-based startup Enjin, who will share with us Enjin's story as well as their offering towards game developers. It will finally present how Enjin leverages AWS to host their infrastructure. All right, let's get to the heart of the topic. First, it's important to explain what blockchain is in order to understand NFTs. At its core, a blockchain is a ledger, which records and tracks data in batches that are called blocks. The blocks of data are linked together in a chronological manner. If you want to modify a piece of data already in the blockchain, you cannot alter an existing block. Instead, you will have to create another block at the top of the chain, making the existing data immutable. Oh, and as you may have guessed, this is where the name blockchain comes from. Now, you may think that there is little new to this, and that notaries or banks have been keeping ledgers and records for centuries. Well, this is where it gets interesting. All the copies of the ledger are stored in multiple nodes which are linked one another. Instead of having one centralized entity to keep track of the records, any individual or organization can join a network and run one or several nodes. Each of these nodes keep the latest copy of the ledger, which is updated each time a new block of data is created. Finally, each node collaborates together to validate a new block of data. In order for a new block of data to be validated, the network participants need to reach a consensus based on a set of predefined rules. The combination of decentralization and consensus algorithms creates trust in the network. This means that it removes the need to have middlemen to manage the ledger, for example, such as a bank acting as an intermediary between buyers or sellers. Now, you may wonder, what is the incentive for individuals or organizations to run nodes within a network and hence pay for the underlying resources? Well, simply put, they are being paid by the network to do so in the form of cryptocurrencies. There are key different models to manage and reward network participants, such as proof of work, proof of stake, or delegated proof of stake. Each of these models come with their advantages and trade-offs in terms of security, decentralization, scalability, or environmental impact. Now, because the blockchain is an evolution of the good old general financial ledger, many of its first applications were related to finance use cases. For example, as a way to offer faster, safer, and more transparent payment solutions compared to the legacy payment systems. Or as a way to send money overseas faster and without hefty conversion and transaction fees. Or even as a way to enable peer-to-peer lending and borrowing at low risk. But from 2017 onwards, something new was introduced: the possibility to mint non-fungible tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. Until then, the tokens available on the blockchain were what we called fungible tokens. So let me elaborate on this. So fungibility is the ability of a good or asset to be readily interchanged for one of like kind. For example, two $1 notes. The two notes are different, but their value is identical. Non-fungibility identifies something or someone in a unique way. Each assets or tokens are unique and can have different value than another one. maybe due to their age, who owned them in the past, or the rarity of their characteristics. So these new Ethereum tokens, such as ERC-1155 or ERC-721, introduced a standard for non-fungible token on the blockchain for the first time and opened a new set of use cases for blockchain-based applications. So, to put it simply and in one sentence, NFTs enable us to create certificates of ownership of a digital or physical asset on the blockchain that everyone can see. Think of it as a deed for a car or house whose purpose is to document the transfer of ownership of the asset between one party to the other. But instead of being validated and kept by a centralized organization, for example, a notary in the case of a house, this deed lives on the blockchain. So some of you may think, we already have certificates of ownership for assets like cars and houses. So why do we need NFTs when these all exist already? Well, that's because utilizing blockchain and smart contracts bring a new set of characteristics and advantages that goes as follows. As we explained before, blockchain-based NFTs were enabled by the creation of new token standards on the Ethereum blockchain. Having these standards in place to issue certificates of ownership for digital assets create a common ground for developers and users to use this across a variety of use cases. And because NFTs are based on public blockchains, an NFT launched by its creator can easily be accessed and moved across multiple ecosystems and applications. This interoperability then enables free trade of these NFTs outside of their original environment into marketplaces, allowing different trading capabilities such as auction, bidding, bundling, and more. Immutability and provable scarcity is an important one, as smart contracts allow developers to limit the supply of non-fungible tokens in the smart contract and enforce persistent properties that cannot be modified after the NFTs are issued. For example, a developer can enforce programmatically that only a specific number of a specific rare item can be created. This is particularly interesting for art, which relies heavily on the provable scarcity of an original piece. And finally, just like any other digital assets, NFTs are programmable. This means that you can add code when creating the NFT, which will be triggered when a certain event occurs. For example, the developer of an NFT can program an automated 5% royalty each time that an NFT changes hands. So this is no wonder why the creative and digital economy has been at the forefront of the NFT boom. This comes mainly from a plain fact. With the emergence of the internet and digital worlds in general, users have lost the ability to individually own digital assets. One example of this is music. Where we used to own physical albums from our favorite bands, we now instead only rent this music to a platform to access their songs. NFTs fix this. So while NFTs permit users to own digital assets, they are also allowing creators to monetize their work, such as music or images, by selling them directly to their audience without the need to rely on intermediaries. For other creative businesses, like game developers, NFTs allow to create new experiences and pave the way for new business models. So let's dive deep into these two use cases. So one of the first use cases for NFTs was around digital art and collectibles. In this case, artists or content creators can mint a finite series of artwork and sell the certificate of ownership as NFTs. These can be pictures, videos, songs, albums, you name it. The value of these NFTs will be ultimately decided by the community itself, just like real-world non-fungible assets like paintings, based on some tangible characteristics, such as the rarity of the asset, which can be proved and verified on the blockchain, or the ownership history, but also based on characteristics like creator's popularity and the buyer's emotions. Now, many are wondering, why would you pay for a digital item, like a song, which will be then available to anybody on the internet. Well, for the same reason that some collectors spend millions for an original painting whose pictures is already freely available on the internet. NFTs buyers are, in a sense, not so different from art buyers. They buy to support an artist that they love, but also for status, identity, and sense of belonging. The value of NFTs goes beyond just replicating the physical art market to the digital world. It enables new ways for artists to engage with their audience, cut intermediaries, and addressing the problem with counterfeit that even the physical art market can benefit from. Surely, there are still many unknown and challenges with this use case, and many of its benefits remain theoretical. While some well-known artists have been adopting NFTs, we also have seen a number of NFT projects driven by sheer hype and sometimes through scams. So the months and years to come will tell if these can fulfill the high hopes that they hold for the content creator and the art community. Beyond digital and collectibles, the use of NFTs within the gaming industry is now anticipated to be the next killer use case. There are different ways for gaming companies to leverage NFTs, but going in detail through these would take an entire presentation. So let me focus today on one of these elements, in-game asset ownership. Online gamers have been acquiring, buying, or trading in-game assets for years now. For example, in MMORPGs, where completing an hours-long quest got you an extremely rare sword that you could then sell for in-game currency. Think of Fortnite as well, or League of Legends also, where players are spending real money or in-game currency to purchase skins to differentiate themselves. But there are a few problems with this approach. First, all of these in-game assets are never really owned by the players. They live within a centralized database managed by the game developer. Second, the assets cannot leave the walled garden of the game developer. And if the game shuts down, the players will have lost all assets earned over the weeks, months, or years that they have been playing. Lastly, the players have little to no way to cash out their assets if they were to stop playing the game. This is why NFTs have the possibility to change this paradigm. By issuing in-game NFTs to their players, game developers offer real ownership of these assets to their users. Users have the possibility to trade them more easily in cryptocurrencies as well as fiat. If the games shut down, the assets will still live on the blockchain and can be transferred to other compatible digital worlds. Additionally, communities can choose to build new games and experiences around these assets. Game developers also benefit from introducing in-game NFTs. By doing so, they build a stronger community, incentivizing their players by offering them a way to generate actual money by trading items. It also unlocks new revenue streams, for example, by collecting royalties each time an in-game NFT is sold on the secondary market. And it increases user loyalty by allowing them to transfer their assets between different games of the same developer. Now, while we understand that the digital creative economy was an obvious starting point to leverage NFTs, there are other, more traditional sectors that can leverage this technology to reinvent themselves, or at the very least, greatly improve user experience. Examples include supply chain, ticketing, document verification, tokenized invoice, and more. But for the sake of time, let me just expand on two of these. Let's have a look at document verification. As you may have guessed, organizations can also use blockchain and NFTs to issue tamper-proof digital credentials, for example, a diploma, and verify the authenticity of the document, as well as the issuing organization, and if necessary, its expiry date. If you followed the presentation, you will have noticed that they, however, need to restrict one of the NFT's capability, its capacity to be traded or transferred to another party. And this can be done by programming the smart contract issuing the certificate or using a different type of NFT standard, which limits transfer of ownership. This use case is not so far off. One Singaporean startup called Accredify already uses smart contracts to issue blockchain-based, verifiable, tamper-evident digital documents and credentials. Another cool use case that we are seeing is with ticketing. There is a lot of fraud in the industry, with many online tickets sold being counterfeit. Some companies are already using blockchain and the NFT standards to issue tickets for events. These use the whole range of benefits that we discussed earlier. Event organizations can create provable scarcity and leverage NFTs' immutability to make sure of the exact number of tickets in circulation and eliminate the risk of fraud. And they can better control secondary market sales. And just like the gaming and digital art use cases, they could potentially unlock new, innovative experiences for the users. At the time of the video, NFT-based ticketing are still a tiny fraction of the large global ticketing market. But with its potential benefits, it is worth watching that space and observe whether it can live up to the hype. You may wonder at this point, all of these examples of blockchain-based NFTs benefiting from a decentralized infrastructure are great. But where does cloud infrastructure fit in here? Well, just like with their classic applications, developers are leveraging AWS to build off-chain components of their decentralized apps. These, of course, include compute elements such as containers, serverless computing, databases such as DynamoDB, messaging services, and more. Or they also leverage AWS Analytics Suite to analyze the vast amount of data generated and stored on blockchains. When it comes to on-chain aspects, AWS created a managed service called Amazon Managed Blockchain, which recently introduced Ethereum support. This service enables applications to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. AMB lets you run dedicated Ethereum nodes that are managed by AWS and that you can provision in minutes. These offer fast performance and handle tasks for you, such as synchronizing the state of their blockchain regularly. If you are interested in reading more, I suggest to read this blog post, which explains how to launch your very own NFT marketplace on AWS. While NFTs have been taking the world by storm, generating as much enthusiasm as criticism, they hold a lot of promises, but also face some challenges. Some of the use cases covered by NFTs remain contained within communities of early adopters, and we are yet to see a durable mainstream adoption. Some of the challenges to drive this mass adoption are related to the environmental impact of resources-intensive proof-of-work blockchains that some NFT projects still use. This space is also so new that using NFT can also be seen as complex by companies or developers who are not yet familiar with blockchain. The technology is still nascent and evolves at really fast pace. But in despite of these, there are already many companies leveraging this new technology and addressing the challenges that we just mentioned. One of them is Enjin, a Singapore-based startup seen as a pioneer in the world of NFTs. With the ecosystem they built, they are democratizing the use of NFTs for game developers while leveraging more resource-efficient blockchain technologies. We are lucky to be joined today by Lucas, VP of Engineering at Enjin. Lucas will share the story of Enjin and explain how they are using AWS to help transforming the gaming industry and enabling developers to leverage blockchains and NFTs. Enjoy the rest of the session, and Lucas, over to you.
Thanks, Antoine, and welcome everybody. My name is Łukasz Orłowski, VP of Engineering at Enjin, a blockchain company focusing on NFTs for the gaming industry. First, let me introduce Enjin to those of you who are new to the space of blockchain and NFTs. Enjin started over 14 years ago with the mission of building gaming communities and providing solutions for them. Our journey started with building CMS solution, which gathered the community of over 20 million people. Our users started creating guilds using the CMS system, and before we knew it, people were trading in-game items. The founders of Enjin recognized that as a great opportunity and started looking into how to provide solutions for these use cases. This was around 2017, when Ethereum was around a year and a half old. So naturally, blockchain caught their attention. They got obsessed with it. And later that year, Enjin shifted their full focus to blockchain. Witek Radomski, the technical co-founder, published the ERC 1155 standard, which is the leading NFT standard nowadays, effectively paving the way for NFTs in gaming and subsequently metaverse. In early 2021, the NFT market exploded. We've seen NFTs sold for millions of dollars, and in my opinion, we still haven't seen the tip of it. Currently, NFTs are traded as valuable collectibles, very much like paintings or vintage wines. We still need to see tangible utility for mass adoption to happen. This is currently the biggest challenge for NFTs. Another hurdle is the general sentiment towards blockchain. Some people assume that blockchain is some sinister tech meant to destroy the planet. The boundary between real world and the virtual one is the challenge. That's why we believe that NFTizing assets in video games is the first killer use case. This must be simple and provide great developer experience for adopters who are not necessarily familiar with blockchain. Finally, we must keep environment footprint in mind. We need to be carbon neutral, and I'm delighted to state that we take that very seriously at Enjin. This is why we built Enjin ecosystem, a full suite which enables easy access to blockchain and NFTs for everyone. Just to name a few, we offer a cloud-based platform allowing game devs and even average Joe to create and manage blockchain-based projects and assets. APIs, which are the endpoints that our adapters use to interact with the ecosystem. SDKs, providing seamless DevX for game developers. Wallet app, which allows users to securely access and interact with their collectibles and in-game items. Beam, for mass distribution of NFTs. And NFT.io marketplace, which allows NFT collectors, traders, and creators make, buy, sell, and bid on assets. Speaking of assets, ERC 1155 standard is made at Enjin. ERC 1155 is the leading standard for NFTs, which is used by nearly all marketplaces like OpenSea, Rarible, and now our very own NFT.io. We wouldn't be talking about NFTs if it wasn't for ERC 1155 standard to begin with. So, a question that I get asked a lot is, how do you deploy a decentralized blockchain on a centralized cloud? See, the nodes don't need to sit on the same network. In fact, the whole idea behind decentralization is to have every node accessible over the public internet. Just make sure to set the firewall rules properly. Okay, so now let's talk about Enjin's partnership with AWS. Enjin has been using AWS for over 14 years. In a way, our infrastructure has evolved alongside with the expansion of the offering of cloud services that AWS provides. First, we started with hosting monolithic applications on plain old EC2 instances, which also heavily use S3, RDS, Elastic Cache, and OpenSearch. Then, with the advent of the Cloud 2.0, we gradually started shifting to microservices hosted in containers. Currently, we're implementing elements of event-driven architecture, which drastically is improving the scalability of our solutions. Every transition helped us spend less on AWS. After shifting to containerized microservices, we stopped paying for EC2 instances and instead started paying for the CPU and memory usage. Now, event-driven architecture helps us save even more as we only pay per request. After realizing the benefits of using managed services, we started prototyping AWS native products which use DynamoDB, which is a managed NoSQL database offering consistent single-digit millisecond performance, Lambda and step functions, which allow us to build flows which execute small portions of code, and we only pay for execution time. Elastic Container Registry and Elastic Container Service, which help us store container images and orchestrate our containers without the complexity of using Kubernetes. API Gateway, which takes the hurdle of implementing our own gateways and natively integrates with Lambda. There's a lot more, but I'm going to stop here in the interest of time. In order to save time, which we can use on innovation, we decided to onboard to AWS Managed Services, or AMS in short, which we're loving already. AMS is a service whereby AWS is managing some of the most critical parts of our infrastructure on our behalf. We're getting great value from SLAs on our accounts and dedicated DevOps engineering partners who guide us along the process and help resolve incidents in no longer than 2 hours. We're getting great support with our infrastructure on security, compliance, and cost optimization. In the spirit of becoming carbon neutral, we decided to expand to the Polkadot ecosystem, also because of its scalability and isolability. It's much faster than Ethereum and costs a minuscule fraction of what Ethereum costs nowadays. That said, we launched our own blockchain called Affinity on Polkadot Parachain. It is fully hosted on AWS. We follow the principles of AWS well-architected framework to the dot, pun intended. Some key AWS services that we use are Nitro Enclaves, hosting the most sensitive compute resources in complete isolation. Elastic Container Service, hosting Docker containers running nodes on our chain, enabling trivial upgradability. Managed Service for Prometheus, allowing us to gather and analyze data and metrics directly from Substrate. Cloud HSM, for managing our own FIPS 140-2 Level 3 validated keys. Key Management Service, for managing HSM-backed keys that we use for encrypting everything. Secrets Manager, to securely store and rotate sensitive information, and many, many more that everybody knows and loves. This quarter has been extremely busy for us so far. On March 11th, we launched Affinity. On March 15th, we'll launch an invite-only beta of NFT.io, our marketplace, facilitating mass distribution of NFTs. In a couple of days, we're launching private beta of Enjin Wallet 2.0 app, which offers a completely revamped wallet app experience tailor-made for NFTs. Later this year, we're going to launch open betas of both NFT.io and Wallet and Open Platform, which is going to be a revamped open source version of our platform, empowering our adopters to adjust it to their specific needs. As far as our partnership with AWS goes, we're planning on listing Affinity nodes, open platform, etc. on AWS Marketplace and onboarding adopters of Enjin products to AWS by the means of AWS Activate program. I could go on, but I'm just going to stop it here and just sum it up with Enjin loves AWS. Thank you for attending this session, and thank you for having me over here, Antoine. I invite you all to visit Enjin.io to get more details on awesome stuff that we're making possible at Enjin.
Thank you, Lucas, for a great presentation. It's amazing to see how Enjin has been a foundational player in the blockchain world and how it now helps companies to reap its benefits. I hope that you too, at home or at work, enjoyed this session as much as we did preparing it. To learn more about AWS after the session, we encourage you to get engaged with our training and certifications content today. Skill Builders is our online learning center that makes it easier for anyone, from beginners to experienced professionals, to build AWS cloud skills. Within Skill Builder, take advantage of flexible learning plans, which offers suggested digital courses aligned to a specific domain or job role. As you build your skill, consider preparing for one of our 11 AWS certifications. We invite you to join the AWS Certified community, which brings together AWS certified practitioners and builders in an exclusive online community. You will participate in discussion forums, learnings and networking opportunities, and challenges from the AWS team to earn rewards and recognition. Scan one or both of the QR codes on the screen to get started with your cloud skill training and certification. And of course, feel free to complete the session survey to help us improve your summit experience in the future. Thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of the event.